Hi guys, and welcome back to day 30 of Inktober. I am back. I did skip posting a video yesterday, but I did create a piece, so if you'd like to see that missing one, you can go check it out on Instagram or on my art shop because I do still have the original available. And yeah, I am excited to get back into it. It's surprising how long it feels to go a day without editing and uploading a video when normally I'm used to going several days, but it felt like such a long time. So I'm excited to get back into it and get back to the last final two videos. But yeah, today I wanted to do one that was really focused on just a very pretty dress and flowy hair. I've always loved drawing that, and I've always loved finding inspiration from that as well. Also, I've been starting Sailor Moon and rewatching that quite a bit. So if you can't tell, there's definitely a little bit of influence with that, especially with her hair and it flowing in two different directions. But anyways, I was really enjoying gathering a lot of just inspiration for this one and having a lot of fun looking through different ways that I can incorporate the things that I like into this piece. It was really fun to be able to work on the see-through parts of her dress where she has this like over sleeve section. I absolutely love painting see-through objects. I think that it's really just fun to be able to experiment with ways to make it look like that, have this translucency to it, especially when I'm working with color. I think that's one thing that I'm really missing and really excited to get into is doing very translucent objects, because it does immediately add so much interest to a piece and depth, and just having different types of textures of objects can really make a piece feel a lot more filled up and real in a way where I can really focus on just different ways of exploring these visual ideas. And yeah, I love being able to incorporate that into the line art also. So a large part of making something see-through is showing the color that's beneath, or in this case, the value, so that you can see how it's influenced with the things behind it. But it's also something that I wanted to be sure that I carried through into line work itself. So what I did for mainly her sleeves is I did the sleeves, the outside sleeve shape first, and I got that defined. And then I went in and lined in the shape of her arm, but I did it with a very skippy dotted line. And I specifically avoided the sections where there would be a wrinkle in the fabric where it would continue, and I showed where it folded, because I wanted those areas to look like there was extra thickness in the fabric, so it would be harder to see what was beneath it. So that really helps with just the way that the eye interprets what you're drawing, is to pay attention to things like that. And I did look up a lot of references of different dresses to arrive at this one. I did add several details that were my own particular flavor of how I wanted to draw the dress, but it was really great to get a lot of different ideas of dress shapes and details, and that was very inspiring. I also found that as I look at dresses on Pinterest, I usually end up going down a path where suddenly it's all wedding dresses, and I think it's partly because Pinterest is very wedding oriented, but it is actually very helpful because you'll find a lot of really gorgeous wedding photography as well as photography of the dresses to sell the dresses. And in those, you can usually find people in very demure poses, and I really enjoyed working off of those for this piece, where I just wanted it to be very subtle and serene, and it just worked really well working from that source of inspiration and resources. And I also added a detail. I don't think that I necessarily executed it the best way because I don't think it's as viewable as I'd like it, but I did actually end up giving her autopsy stitches, so where they would cut open bodies during autopsies, I give that to her on her chest. And I just felt like I needed something like that, something in this piece. But yeah, I could have definitely executed it better so that it was a little bit more clean and an element in and of itself. For this, it gets a little bit lost in this sheer dress that's over top of it. So there's details like that sometimes when I make them into the piece, I don't always incorporate them to the best that they could have been. And that's a reminder that I do need to make sure that I'm really thought out with how exactly I'm executing everything, because I do want to make sure that every element is as cleanly defined and precise as I possibly can get it. And it's kind of irritating when I put in things that just are feeling off. They're off because they're not as well defined or they're not as cleanly lined. So I think this is an example of something that I could have executed better and cleaner and more precise, but I like that it's there. I like that there's that tiny little hint of something that's a little bit more macabre, but yeah. And then I finally got to the values. So I think the values are the biggest thing that I could have improved on in this piece. It's definitely something that I've realized in Inktober, at least, where I'm working at a much faster pace. I'm not stepping away from the pieces nearly as much, so this piece in the end looks a lot better close up than it does necessarily far away, simply because the values are a lot more closely grouped together. So when you're looking at it up close, you can see the definition in the line work clearer, and you can also see variations in the values better. But when you step back, your eyes start to see things grouped together, so it no longer really stands out as much. So if there's one takeaway that I take from this piece, it's that I need to remember, no matter how quickly I'm moving, I need to make sure that I'm taking a step back and looking at all my pieces from a distance. That way I can really see how they're reading. And the thing is that if they read better from a distance, they'll still read better up close too. But yeah, in the end, it ended up that I painted this, like, the side sections of her dress, I painted those almost the same value as the background. They're pretty close. So she starts to fall back into the background a little bit. I think that one thing that really could have fixed this quite a bit would have been darkening the background. And that would have helped her pop off a lot more. And then the areas that would have been the same value or similar value would end up being a lot lighter compared to the background. So yeah, there are things that once you notice, it's just good to catalog why you made those choices so that in the future you can remember to not make them. But yeah, I for sure need to be sure that I'm paying attention to the values and really stepping back and analyzing where they're at. But I also, moving forward, really want to be much more dedicated to planning out the values beforehand. In my color comp step, I need to be doing a very dedicated value study, because a large part of a really successful piece comes from the values. That's what you read first before color. So moving forward, I definitely want to make sure that my values are completely nailed down and they're correct for that piece, that they really push what I'm looking for. But then it came time to paint the sleeves, and again, that was one of my favorite parts to paint. I really love painting very translucent sections, like I mentioned. I just took the background color and I added just a little bit of water to my brush so that it would be a little bit more light and diffused through the dress and through that sleeve. And then I added it around where the shape around her arm in the sleeve, but I also made sure to avoid the edges of the fabric, since again, that's where you're looking through the most amount of fabric, so you'll see the most amount of the fabric color. And ultimately I wanted it to be more of a light value of the fabric, and then it's just sheer, so that where there's a darker value behind it, you'll see that darker value coming through. So yeah, when I went in there, I was very light-handed with where I was placing the background value in the shape where you would be able to see the background through her sleeve, and that helped it just not feel too nailed down. It felt a lot more airy, and I actually really liked that effect and that look. And ultimately I wanted to do almost like a sparkling effect on her dress, where I first went in with my white gel pen and I went in there and manually added dots into her dress. And it was going a little bit slower than I wanted, so I ended up taking a bottle of white ink and I splattered it on it with a brush. But I think the value was just too light for those dots to really come out. I do actually like the effect. It is very subtle, which I think really does fit better with this piece and with the look of it. But yeah, when you look at it up close, you can see these little dots of almost a shimmer to her dress. I also did that as well in the sheer part of where she has the sleeves and the collar of her dress, because I wanted it to look like it was that same fabric that was covering the bottom part of her dress as well. And small side note, this Friday is the next YouTube Artist Collective piece, which I cannot wait for. It'll be really exciting to get out of all this grayscale and being able to get into a piece that immediately I want to use a lot of bright colors. So I cannot wait. If you want to see my work with colors and you haven't yet, or you're getting really tired of just gray, stay tuned for Friday, because I will be back with an actual finished full colored illustration. But I do get a lot of questions about the YouTube Artist Collective. And if you don't know what that is, I will definitely talk about it on Friday. But I do get the question on whether other people can participate. And absolutely anyone can participate as an unofficial guest. I'm tripping on my words. But anyone can participate. So if you want to take part in the theme, and the theme is Grimm's Fairy Tale, you can create a piece, you can create a video, you can post it pretty much anywhere and tag it as such. I think the tag that we use is YTAC. But anyways, yes, it is a great experience to be able to create a piece all around one theme and one idea and see how people interpret it and make it their own. So yes, if you'd like to post one, I would love to see it on Friday, and I will be posting mine on Friday, so make sure to stay tuned for the future art in this channel. And that is it for today. Today is actually the 31st. I'm editing it the next day, so that means that I have one more video and one more piece that'll be up tomorrow, and then we'll be done, and then we'll be moving on to bigger, brighter, more colorful things, and I cannot wait to start that. If you would like to own Lumina, which is the art book for all of my Inktober pieces, there is a Kickstarter link in the description, and we did just reach our first stretch goal, so anyone who did and will buy a copy of the book, any of the tiers that do have a book in it, will also get a free sticker. And if you want to see what that sticker looks like, again, you can follow that link. I also have all of my originals listed in my shop, so if you'd like to check that out, there is a link down below. Some of them have sold, but I do have some available still. And yeah, that is about it for today. So I will see you guys tomorrow for our final Inktober piece.